Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Author's Den. I'm Cyrus Webb. We're joined by my co-host, Dr. Teresa A. Smith. You know her as Dr. Taz. We're excited you guys could join us on the social media platforms where we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and on Instagram. Have a great guest that's joining us today. We also want to welcome those tuning in on Amazon Live. So if you guys are joining us on Amazon, boy, we're so excited you all could join us. Make sure if you're on Amazon, if you're not following us already, make sure you guys hit that follow button. You see it either here in this corner or down below. You also will see some of the books by today's guest here on the Author's Den, that being Dr. Velma Bagby. Now, you guys know her as the best-selling author of the Catch series, but she has other books she's wrote as outside of that too. So we're excited about being able to have on the program. But Dr. Taz, Dr. Velma, good to be able to see the two of you.
Thank you, Cyrus. I'm
Cyrus.
happy to be on the show.
Well, look, I want to give a shout out to ZenZone7531 over there on IG. Good to see you. Jacqueline Jones joining us from Mississippi. Hello to you, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, we got to catch up. I know I've said that now for a year, but we really do have to catch up soon. That's really bad. I think it's Aquila Birdsong. Hello to you over there on IG. Glad you can join us as well. Now, if you guys have any questions or comments for Dr. Velma, make sure you guys do put those in the chat. But Dr. Taz, I want to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. And Dr. Velma, I am so pleased to have you with us on the Author's Den. Now, we met several years back. And when I met you, we were part of an anthology just to
Yes,
show this book. And it
that's
was like,
right.
oh my God, I've met this great woman. But when I met you at that conference, I also bought this book.
No.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you know my Adam is still asleep until God wakes him up. So, what I want to do is just kick us off and just sort of talk about your progression. You and I both have worked at our state departments of education. And you know, when you work at the State Department of Ed, you have to write to their voice.
Yes.
You don't have to do that anymore. You're a best-selling author, and your latest book, which is a bestseller, is The Journal.
hmm
How does it feel like knowing that you are writing with your voice and you're a bestseller? How does that make you feel?
Wow. When you think about it, it's only been 6 years, going on 7 years, that I've been writing. I retired in 2012, and it took me 6 years to actually finish that book you just showed because I was struggling with finding my voice. I was an expert at what I did with state government. I knew how to speak their message, write their message, communicate their message, and that's what I did for a long time. So I took my time because at the same time I was still discovering what the literary world meant in terms of an author, what that responsibility meant, what was my responsibility, because the very first book was nonfiction, which is what I thought I was supposed to write. And so it took me some time. I had to read a lot of how-to books because I notice a lot of authors are always asking questions. There's plenty of how-to books, so just take your time, get into that. And so I spent some of that time doing that. I had to understand the genre and the requirements for the genre because each one has requirements, whether it's nonfiction, fiction. Fiction, once I got into that, it was a show, don't tell. I said, oh, okay, I have to learn some new things. So there was a lot of little details that you have to be familiar with and understand. I remember getting a cheat sheet that was called How Not to Say Said. She said, he said, how
Yeah,
not to say it. And I have had to discover clues on how to say it in a different way. So there was a lot of work to be done. And that's why I took my time. And that very first book, I actually purchased a package, a publishing package from Boutique. Because again, I didn't know much about this world and I wanted to take my time to learn. So I thought that would be the best way for me. They had payment plans. So I didn't care about the amount. I just needed to get the first book out there, and while I watched the steps, learned what I needed to know about the publishing world. And after that is when I began to publish my own work. But it's about learning first, and it's not a sprint. You have to take your time to make sure you're very much aware of what you need to know.
absolutely. And Myra Cook says that she has that book. So I'm thinking she has this book. And it's, when you talk about learning, because it is a lifelong process,
Yes,
and
it
you
is.
pick up all those nuggets, and now we fast forward, we have, if you look at the back of the wall, you have a lot of books now, including the Catch series. And
hmm
we've talked about the Catch series on other platforms. But what I want you to do now is think about it from a different perspective. She's like, oh,
Uh,
okay, let's go with that.
uh-oh.
How did you what clued you in on blending humor and faith in order to tell the story? Because you talk a lot about how you came up with the parables, but you're
Mhm.
also blending a little bit of humor, which sometimes makes something a little more palatable for us. So how
Mhm.
did you come up with that idea?
Because I'm that way. I try to blend humor even in what I do, even in what I have to say. That was part of my MO, I should say. Even if when I had to stand before, I remember a time I was very nervous. I had 100 employers in a building. I had to represent the deputy administrator
Mhm.
in this presentation. They couldn't make it. This was when EDD's system crashed. It was during the a bad period of time. A lot of things were happening. That was right after housing crash as well. And so I had to make this presentation and I was very nervous. So do you know what I did? I got up there and I started singing the Mickey Mouse song. Mickey Mouse. They burst out laughing because it helped me to break the ice. And then I explained that even though we spell that out, our department has so many acronyms. And I said, prepare yourself because new ones are on the way as we develop new programs. So they related to it so much. So I find that sometimes if you can show that side of you, people can receive what you're saying, even if it's funny, even if it's a serious uh, topic that you're being funny about. So I find that people can resonate very easily when you use humor, and I found it helped me quite a bit even in my career.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I had no idea that that's how you were blending the humor with your stories. And
Hmm.
it works. It really does. And it makes it more powerful for us. And Myra said that she's had to learn how to use said also. So we're
Yes,
all together with that.
amen. I love it.
Well, I'm going to kick it over to Cyrus now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Taz. Appreciate that. Dr. Velma, I want to talk about something that we've talked about before. Dr.
Hmm.
Taz referenced, of course, the Catch series, the first book. I'm going to highlight for those in the on the Amazon side in the carousel, The Catch No One Wants. You and I have talked about when we've had our different interviews that no matter how many books you've written, and you've written several since this book came out, you will always have people who still are finding out about this one.
Yes.
What has that been like for you as an author? Because I think for this is a great reminder for authors out there who may have written a book, and that
Hmm.
did well, and then 3, 4, 5 years later they're writing other books, and people are still discovering that first book. How does it feel to keep finding people that are just discovering the Kit series with this first book?
Well, it's funny because even with the last book, people will go back to that first one because they just discovered the one I released. And so I
Mhm.
try to point back to the original book because that's how this story began. It's important for us to recognize in a series. And I remember in the beginning, it wasn't my goal to write a series. It was one of the folks that I reached out to where I had a session with to help me to guide my next steps in my writing. That was one of the first things she suggested I did, but I wasn't ready for that yet. I thought I was supposed to write this one book. So to know that that's where it all began. It doesn't matter which book you're reading, you're going to want to go back to that very first book. So to hear that readers are just now discovering it is wonderful because the issues that are addressed are still moving forward, still happening, still going on. So the hope is that more will discover it and hopefully more will benefit from it as
Yeah.
a result.
Love that. I know they will. Dr. Vam, I want to ask you about something else that is so important. We're beginning a new year here, and with my company, with Conversations Media Group, we're going to be leaning very heavy in getting people to understand the power of social media. A lot of people are
Yeah.
on social media, but they don't recognize the power literally at their
Mhm.
fingertips. What has that journey been like for you? Because you've shared with me before, but I want you to share with our audience. What is your relationship with social media? How has that evolved since you started your writing journey?
Well, before I met you, Cyrus, and decided to develop a work relationship with you and have you come into my circle as my publicist, I had no idea what I needed to know about social media. I remember it was Angela Anderson who was one of the ones who walked by my side. We got to know each other at the Christian Book Lovers Retreat, but and remained friends. She introduced me to Cyrus. But before that, she wanted to take a look at what my social media looked like. And I'm embarrassed to say, I think I had like 50 people
Mhm.
on Instagram. Forget about LinkedIn. I think I was just on Instagram and my personal profile page, which I didn't know the differences between a professional page and a personal profile page. So I had a lot to learn. And she
Mhm.
helped to guide me in that. She said, "Oh no, Dr. Velma, you really need to work on this." And one of the things that you've always impressed upon members of your CMG team is to ensure that we're not only posting, but we're engaging. And that was something I didn't do. I didn't engage at all. And so I had to practice engaging with those who engaged with me to make sure I was responding and answering and providing direction and all of that. So that's I to put it bluntly, it was broken. My social media was broken in the beginning because I did not have a clue what my responsibilities were concerning it at all. I just thought I was supposed to post and I discovered a lot more than that.
Earl Hall is joining us on Facebook. Earl says, "Are there any books Cyrus Webb is suggesting you write next?" I don't know what he means by that.
I don't know.
Yes, should I answer?
Well, I mean, we know the answer is no, but yes, you could go.
The
Yeah.
answer is yes. We developed a list, and thankfully, some of the things he suggested was already on my list.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Since one of my ebooks is called the My 70s Love Story, which happens to be in that book that Dr. Todd showed,
Mhm.
that I had no idea that it was no the anthology you and I
Oh,
are
that's
both
right. That's right.
on.
That's right. It's this one.
My 70s love story is in
Mhm.
that book. And that's how Dr. Taz and I connected when we really didn't understand how we were connecting
Mhm.
until recently. And
Yeah.
so I wrote about it and then I released an ebook. So that's something I do whenever I'm a part of an anthology. I always release my piece as an ebook. And
Yeah.
so when I released that, I found a huge following of high schoolers who wanted to know what I did in high school, how I met my husband. I mean, on Instagram, they were eating it up, that particular piece. And so, as a result of being blessed with 50 years of marriage, my publicist suggests that I write about 50 years and beyond. So, to really tell beyond that piece, I'm already working on it.
Yeah.
How to tell what happened to us, some of the journey of our experience, and so that others might be able to benefit from it. So that's one of the goals. And there's other projects in the works, but we'll tell you offline, Dr. Earl.
There you go. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Taz.
Thank you, Cyrus. And thank you, Dr. Earl, for the question. Hmm. Now, Dr. Velma, you've been dropping nuggets the whole time. But if you had to give one piece of advice, or even two pieces of advice to
Mhm.
authors or aspiring authors, what would that advice be?
One piece of advice. The one piece I would suggest is that this you're not an island. You can't approach this as if you're the only one in this journey. I believe in having a circle, an inner circle. Some people call it your tribe. I call it a wise counsel, people that I value and trust. Inner circle, they call it, but you cannot do it by yourself. And that's what I had to slowly build because even though I started out, didn't have anybody I can go to ask questions about, over time, I did build that support. And so I have people I can go to even offer suggestions on where I might be going with a particular writing or an idea about a particular book that I can bounce those ideas off of and they would give me sound advice. So I think it's important to have that is you're not by yourself. And if you're trying to do this all along, then that's how you get beat up along the way because things will happen and you need support around you as you move through this season of your writing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bell. I think that you are so right, and that's underpinned by being open-minded and then open to feedback. Because you're right, you can have your eye. You don't want to be on the island, so you got to have people that you
Yep.
trust to give you feedback and guidance. And I think that is so important for writers,
Hmm.
inspiring writers to keep that in mind because we can't see it all. So thank you
Yeah.
for dropping that nugget for our audience. Cyrus, I'm going to give it back to you now.
Dr. Vim, we've enjoyed having you on with us here on the Authors End. So glad you could be a part of this new season. For those who are just finding out about you, how can they stay connected with you?
I'm on all these social media platforms as Dr. Velma Bagby, but I would love for you to subscribe on my YouTube page and also subscribe on my website as well, drvelmabagby.com. That way you can stay connected to any new things that may be happening that I'd like to announce and even some freebies. I'm working on that as well.
Love that. Love that. Everyone loves freebies. Again, everyone, Dr. Velma Bagby has been our guest here on the Authors Den with Dr. Taz and myself, sharing a bit of her journey. Her books are here on Amazon. So if you guys are new to Dr. Velma, make sure you guys do check them out. You'll see the nonfiction books, including the one that you saw that Taz referenced earlier about Your Adam is Sleeping. You'll see it there. You can get it there. Also, My 70s Love Story. You can get it there for 99 cents. The Kindle edition, and the Cat series, of course, is there as well, including the newest book you guys see here, the 30-Day Wild Journal. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. Dr. Velma, definitely looking forward to our next chat together. And thank you again
Thank
for
you.
stopping by the Authors Den.
I loved it. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the questions too, Dr. Taz.
Thank you so much, Dr. Velma.
Dr. Taz, let them know how to stay connected with you as well.
The best thing is just to follow me on IG, Dr. Teresa Smith, and in my Linktree bio there, just click on that and it will get you to all my other social media.
Love that. And we thank your audience for tuning in. It's another great segment of the Authors Den here on Amazon Live, also simulcasting through our friends on social media. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.